How do you network for your startup effectively by looking like you're not networking?
And that's where people go wrong with networking a lot is.
Wow, that's spot on with those 2 points, right? I mean, that's absolutely true.
I don't think a lot of businesses, when they're smaller or starting out, look into that part enough.
What's up, Gummy?
Not much.
All right, how's your week?
So far, so good.
Yeah?
Yeah, not wearing 7 layers is helpful.
It is nicer out.
It is nice.
Definitely nicer out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about you this morning.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, is that why my ears were ringing?
I don't know, but this is going to sound weird. I was thinking about you as I was getting dressed.
Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great night.
No, because remember we were here the one time, and I was like, you pretty much always wear the same stuff, right? Like button-up shirt, pant, like slacks. Yeah. Pretty easy. It's almost like you have a uniform, right? Like, because you're an attorney. Yeah, and people just expect that, right? And then meanwhile, I'm going, like, I can dress however I want, and I should probably dress according to whoever I'm going to.
Sweater, it's nice.
Thank you. But like, I should dress to match whoever I'm meeting with that day, right? Like,
I agree with that.
If I'm meeting with, the marketing director of a $50 million company, I dress differently than if I'm meeting with the auto mechanic or the landscaper up the street, right? But I remember like when I was doing more of the high-end marketing, it was kind of the same thing. Like I had a uniform. I never had to think about what to wear because it was always like slacks, shirt, blazer. Like it was easy.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I have to put way more thought into how I dress.
You do.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm getting to the point where
you just don't like it.
I don't like it. And I feel like I have to have way too many clothes because of it. Like I feel like
it's true. Your outfit, your wardrobe will expand.
Yeah, like I feel like I have twice the amount of clothes now than I did when I had a uniform, so to speak.
Yeah, I have like 7 shirts and 7 pants. That's all you need.
Yeah,
just casually switch them out one for the other. Most of them are white shirts.
Yeah, it's enough clothing for the month.
It is. That's all you need.
But anyway, so I stopped at BJ's.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love BJ's.
I love BJ's too.
I've heard Costco is better, but I love BJ's.
Yeah, I don't. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Actually,
I think that's right.
It depends on what you like, is what it boils down to. Like I know people that have memberships at both, and they buy certain things at one and certain things at the other. But so I saw this bottle of spice, right? And I'm not going to name the brand. And you know how those big tubs of spices, right?
Yeah,
they're normally filled all the way up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I happened to see it today, and I'm hoping this was a mechanical error, right? But I walk up to the spices, and I'm like, there's this much missing from a few of them. And then there were a couple of them that were only like half full.
Wow.
And I was like, I hope this is a machine error.
That's what it sounds like.
I hope it's not like shrinkonomics, right? Like that.
It could be.
But that begs in the question, like, if there were this many of them that were this poorly filled,
right?
Where was quality control?
QA? Yeah.
Right? Where's the guy that's supposed to be, or the machine at the end of the road that's making sure that there's not a gap, right?
And it could be It could be shrinkonomics.
It could be, right?
Could be.
But let's assume it's not. Let's say it's a machine error and it wasn't caught, right? It made me think of a couple of things. So quality assurance, right? Quality control, whatever you want to call it. I don't think a lot of businesses, when they're smaller or starting out, look into that part enough. They just assume that everything that they're putting out is good enough.
Right. Yeah.
And it's depending on what type of business you're in, that quality assurance or that quality control can be the product itself. It can be the service you did. Like, how many plumbers do you know come to your house, fix something, and then call you a week later to make sure everything is okay?
I know one.
Right. But if you think about the number of plumbers you know, how many actually do follow up, right? Same thing with HVAC companies. Like a lot of these service industries don't follow up, right? And same thing, like when's the last time your mortgage company followed up with you other than sending you a statement?
Mortgage company? Yeah. I haven't heard from them since I signed the documents.
Right.
13 years ago.
So this is where I was struggling with this is I had to look at, so where is the quality control for different businesses? So I had to think about my industry, for example, right? So our quality control is, you would say that it's the results we deliver, right? Like whether we increase someone's business or exposure or whatever it is. I look at it from the other perspective is, where do we lose most clients? Because that's where your quality assurance should be.
Okay.
And when I went back and looked at it, we've only lost, I don't know, a handful of clients over the years, right? Clients, like when I say lose them, meaning we got fired.
Yeah, sure. Right.
We've
You're
had,
not coming back and not
correct.
yeah.
We've had companies that outgrew us
Right.
and needed like agencies, which I don't consider like firing
No,
us.
that's
It's
different.
yeah.
You did your job.
We did our job. We did it so well that they actually outgrew us, right?
Right.
Like, which should be the whole point.
Kind of what you want.
Yeah, same thing. If they hire an internal marketing person, we don't see it as being fired. We got them far along that they needed to hire someone permanently. But I was looking at it in my business, and I realized that every single client we lost was because of lack of communication.
Oh, absolutely. Same here. Every client I've ever lost is because something happened. They fell through the cracks. Didn't call them for 2 or 3 weeks when I'm supposed to, and yeah, that's 100%.
So very much like this spice could have a few bottles slip by. Like because once again, I'm assuming it's quality control.
Right.
So now I'm thinking like, now we have moved forward in a lot of ways with making sure that we don't lose contact with clients, right? Like we set up CRM systems that automate some of the contact, that send them monthly emails, like, and I'm not talking about like newsletters, but like actually send them an email that looks like it came from someone asking, if there's anything new happening with their business, if there's anything we need to be aware of. But just by automating a lot of that, I think the quality of what we deliver and our quality control was solved by a system very much like a robot is supposed to catch those spice bottles, right? And I think it's overlooked, once again, in a lot of businesses is like, how can I automate, like find my weak point, find what really needs quality control in my business and figure out how to solve that in the optimal way, right? Like,
And when it comes to the communication part, I can't stress this enough. Make it about actual communication. Don't make it a sales pitch. It's not a time for you to pitch your services again.
Nope.
It is a reach out to the client or customer. Hey, how are you doing? And leave it at that. How are you? Everything okay? Great. Call me if you need anything.
Right.
Leave it at that. Because so many people want to go out and say, oh, you're doing good. Well, let me offer you this additional service. And you know what? It just turns people off.
Yeah. And I was thinking like, so like how would this apply? Like if you're a landscaper, right? If you're by yourself, you're starting out, you may not have a crew. How do you put quality assurance on yourself? Right? Because it sounds easy, like, oh, I did the work, so I know I did it well. Well, how many times have we missed something? Right? Like you forgot to weed whack one of the corners,
or
right?
Let's say you did forget something. Let's say you're planting plants, and that you sometimes can't help if the plants die. It's not your, not your fault. The plant might have been bad. Call the people. How's everything going with those plants we put in there? Oh, 2 of them died. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll be right out to fix that.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's follow up as well and quality assurance. It's just, once again, I think it's an overlooked part in many businesses, right?
Well, the reason I say it's follow up, but it's quality assurance for landscapers, because a lot of times you don't know until a couple of days after you did something. Like even with mowing the lawn, right? You may have cut it too low. You're not going to notice that right away.
Yeah. Like I'll give you an example. So I had a drainage trench or whatever they call it put in my yard a few years ago, right? And they put the grass seeds down. I was supposed to water it and all that stuff, which I did, right? And then it didn't rain for like a long period of time. And then I remember we got a day of rain, and I got up in the morning, went down, made my coffee, right? And I'm pouring my cup of coffee, and I see a guy walking across my yard. And I'm like, who's that guy? And then I'm like, oh. So I went and opened the door, and it was the guy that had dug the trench.
Right.
He was just showing up.
Double checking.
It was the first day of rain.
See that?
And I was like, that's impressive, right? Like most guys could have just called and said, "Hey, is it working?" But no,
Right.
he actually bothered showing up.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're going to use him again now.
Oh, needless to say, I've hired him for other things
He's
too.
great. That's
Right.
great.
Yeah.
That's quality assurance. That's customer service. That's making sure that the customer is taken care of.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're right. So back to the spices. You know, if they were all the same level, even at being low, they were all the same level, I would say there's a stronger argument toward, you know, shrinkonomics, right? But the fact that they were varying tells me it's probably a machine issue.
They were all the same except like two that were halfway full, and then all of them, which is why I thought like it's got to be a machine issue.
It sounds like a machine issue to me.
Which is a quality control failure.
Oh,
that these even made it to the store.
Yeah. Someone should have saw that.
I mean, anybody that walks by that now and sees that brand of spice, right, is now going to look at it and go, damn, they're really trying to cheat me because they haven't lowered the price, right? So now it's damaged your brand as well. And it's a well-known brand, like well-known brand.
And for someone out there who might not know what shrinkonomics is or shrinkflation, right? It's 20 years ago, if you bought a bag of potato chips and it was 32-ounce bag of potato chips.
Yep.
The chips, if this is the best size of the bag, it's filled up to about here.
Right.
Then it started getting filled up to about here.
Yep.
And then about here. And now you have more air than potato chips in the bag. That's shrinkflation or shrinkonomics.
Yes. If you want to see a perfect example of this,
for the same price, by the way, or
correct.
more. Yeah.
So laundry detergent is infamous for doing this because you can't see what's in the container. And if you don't read the label, you don't know how many fluid ounces are in there. And most detergents, I believe, in the last 3 years, they actually have fewer ounces in the bottles. Like there was this whole thing that went on where people were taking and using one to fill up, right? And then putting the half empty one back on this. Well, that's because there was room.
Yeah,
right?
Plenty of it.
Yeah.
Big container for a little bit of stuff.
Correct.
Because it makes it look like you're buying a lot, but you're not.
But here's the part that really gets to me with that is on the front, it still says the same number of washes, good for up to.
Right.
And I'm like, it's that fine wording, good up for to. Up to 50 loads, right?
Yep.
Well, yeah, if I use 20% less per load, then I can still get the...
Right, exactly.
So anyway, it was something that caught my eye today.
No, it's a very good point because people need to understand that, you know, when running a business, QA, QC, it's a very important part of it. And I'll bet you're right. If most people look at their business and say, where have I lost clients or customers over the last few years? You'll probably pick out 2 or 3 or maybe 1 or 2 specific things that are reoccurring, which are the reasons why you're losing that business.
Yep.
And sometimes it's so easy to fix.
Yes.
Like in your instance, it's like you said, a CRM or something like that.
Yes.
It's so easy to fix.
It was super easy to fix.
A $20 a month CRM.
Yep. Yeah.
Solves all those problems.
Yeah. It's very fascinating. And, you know, I think it applies to almost every business. Find your weak point, apply quality control standards to that, and you're going to see much better feedback from clients, and you're going to lose less clients.
Hey, if you're having a good time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Oh, and press the like button. Leave a comment.
Do you like the like button?
I like the like button.
I really like the like button.
You know what I love, though?
What?
Comments. I love comments.
Comments are great.
Especially if they're questions that we can get to and actually answer.
That's right. So leave us some comments, and we'll get back to you on those.
Okay.
All right, let's get back to it. Oh, here we go. I like this.
Okay.
This is from Hour, H-O-U-R, Mud4227, who says, how do you network for your startup effectively by looking like you're not networking? Long story short, I have a startup focused on creating custom solutions for clients in our market. It's finally moving past its early gestational development phase, where we have been focused largely on laying down some basic building blocks, et cetera, et cetera. I get that interpersonal networking is a big part of this and one of the most effective ways to acquire clients, especially for companies focused on providing custom solutions. But when I look for information on how to network effectively, which I've tried to do along the way, of course, I see a lot of advice from commenters and successful people that more or less say the trick is when networking, don't approach potential contacts like a salesman trying to sell a product. That's very true. that might be a turnoff. Just try to have authentic conversations and form mutually beneficial relationships. Then some of the people you form relationships with might develop into a client, introduce you to people who will become clients, or help you in some other way. Doing this consistently is how you build a network. Okay, we'll just leave it there. All right. So, I mean, I agree. I think that's absolutely the right way to do it. Clearly, this guy is having some problem with that, however. As I read down further, he says, I'm chatting with a new contact and they mention what they do. I realize asking certain questions about what they do could lead to useful information. What is the best way to ask these questions or acquire this information? So I'll just don't go at it like, what do you do from the point of view of I'm trying to sell you something? Just make it like very casual. Oh, so what do you do for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? That sounds very interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you'll start getting an understanding of, what these people's interests are, what kind of businesses they own or run or they're a part of, et cetera. And leave it at that. I wouldn't go into the sales pitch, right? Meet him again 2, 3, 4 times down the line, right? Eventually he'll say, well, what do you do? Oh, funny you should ask. And maybe that's where you kind of start working in your topics a little bit more. But just keep it more of the inquisition side. What do you guys do? Tell me about that. That sounds really cool, really interesting. Oh, if I've heard of that. That's with this, and this, right? Yeah, great.
I think people confuse networking with sales working, right?
Ooh, I like that.
What?
I like that. That's good. That's a great way to put it.
If you are networking, the goal should be to build long-term relationships with people that might benefit you, or you might be able to help them. I am of the nature that I don't care whether you ever do business with me, but if I can help your business,
yes,
I will do so. And I have other people that will do the same thing for me,
yep.
right? And I always give the example of one of my buddies is a financial advisor, and I have sent him an ungodly amount of business, right? And he came to me the one time. He's like, hey, I'm going to take you out in golfing. And I'm like, sure. So we go play, and he's like, so I brought you out here for a very specific reason. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I feel bad that you've sent me all this business and I haven't been able to send any to you. And I'm like, okay, here's what I want you to think about. When you sit down with an owner of a business, what conversations are you having with that owner? And he goes, well, we're normally planning for the future and how to put money aside and like how to secure their stuff. And I'm like, okay, so where in that conversation are you going to fit in? Oh, by the way, you should go spend money on marketing,
mm-hmm.
right? Because they're not in a growth mindset at the time. They're in at a protect and invest mindset.
Sure.
So interjecting, oh, you should go spend more money on marketing doesn't fit into the conversation. Like I never expected to get a referral from him other than possibly, printing his business cards or brochures, whatever it was. But this is the whole point is if you start networking with people and you start giving, you're going to get from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what networking is about. It is not about trying to pick low-hanging fruit that's going to be an easy sell, because that doesn't happen.
Now, you will see people doing that too along your journey, right? Yeah. As you're networking, start learning how to identify the people that are only there trying to make a sale. And if they can't make a sale with you, you are mm-hmm. worthless to them. You have no value to them whatsoever.
I have a rule.
Get away from those people.
Yeah, I have a rule. If you are walking around the room with a stack of business cards in your hand, trying to hand out as many as you can, I'll take it, but that will end up in the trash.
Yeah.
That's the person I would need to see 2, 3, 4, 5 times before I would even look at their card to see what they do.
I mean, it's not uncommon for me, or I'm sure for you as well, to go to an hour-long networking event and talk to 2 people.
Yeah.
Which will have very long conversations with those people.
So I actually don't do that anymore.
Oh, really?
No. So what I do is I have the, I call it the 10-2 rule.
Okay.
So when I go to a networking event, my goal is to have brief conversations with 10 people, but then have 2 follow-up meetings with 2 out of those 10 people in the following week.
I like that. That's
right.
Neat.
So because you get a good feel in a short conversation, whether you think it's someone that you may be beneficial to or may be beneficial to you. Well, you're not going to build the relationship at the networking event.
Right.
The relationship is going to get built outside of that. So we train all of our sales rep, anybody that does networking for our business, we train them on that 10-2 rule.
I like that. That's a good one.
Is network with at least 10 people and pick the 2 that you really want to follow up with because we're beneficial to them or they could be beneficial to us.
So let's talk about the follow-up because the follow-up is a huge part of this, right? I don't think people realize how important the follow-up is. It's more than just like, hey, I'll see you at the next networking event. Invite that person out to coffee, to lunch, or whatever, golf, something, whatever. Like me, what I do is I actually you've gone to these. I get a balcony suite at the Flyers game. Which I'm going to do the Phillies as well, and I'll invite 10 or 15 of my newer clients or people that I'm networking with out to there, and it's just a friendly just come on out, enjoy the game, have fun, And if I don't hear from 2 or 3 of them again, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But it's just a way of just showing that it's a friendly thing more than a sales pitch.
But it's also allowing you to set up a much closer knit networking event, right?
Right.
And now everybody has a starting point for a conversation because it's how did you get to know Mike?
Right.
Exactly. Why did you get invited?
Yeah. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, why did you get him? How did you make the cut?
Right. But it kind of happens, right?
Yeah.
Like people get curious, like why did you get invited? Because it's a select few that get invited. And it triggers conversations. And that then triggers conversations about, well, here's what Mike did for me. Here's how I got in touch with him, right? And now that person goes, oh, I was having a similar issue. And it's like,
yeah, exactly.
You might want to talk to Mike, right?
Right. The same thing with you. The same thing, I need some marketing, I need this. Yep. Doesn't matter what you're doing. So stuff like that, that's how you go out and you start networking. It is not about, like you said, having a stack of business cards. Hi, I'm John. Hi, I'm John. Hi, I'm John.
So I'll give you a perfect example of where this process blew my mind. So I had a few TikTok videos go viral, right?
Yep.
And I randomly get a message from a guy. And he's like, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, he has no followers, no nothing. I couldn't really find anything about the guy other than like a website that didn't really look good. And I'm like, do you know what? There's a reason he's reaching out to me, right? So I email him. He emails me back. We set up a time to meet. We get on Zoom, only to find out that he is like the 3rd largest VC in Israel.
Get out of here.
Right?
Wow.
But it was just a random thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is this guy reaching out to me? Right? Only to find out that what he wanted to inquire with me about was the early stages of when like ChatGPT was coming out and we had figured out how to get it to do like really cool things.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
He wanted me to educate certain businesses, I can't disclose what it was,
of course.
On how they could utilize this for their internal marketing teams.
Very cool.
Right? And we're talking, I can say like they're sports teams and they're sports teams you would have heard of. But even these sports teams are trying to innovate and figure out how they can do more for less. Mm-hmm. So like I had opportunities to have conversations with like sports clubs that people are like, what? You got to talk to them? And I'm like, yeah. And once you dig into it, you realize that some of these, like what you think of as a big brand, right? Like a soccer club or whatever,
right?
Their marketing department and social media team is literally like one person trying to keep up, right? And you're like, damn, like if you're
you think they have these big teams?
No, a lot of these clubs have like one person handling their social media, right? And it was kind of funny. Like now, don't get me wrong. If you're Manchester United or the Sixers or the Flyers, yes, there's a team behind you, right?
Right.
But what's the name of that show on Apple TV? The Coach.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
I was just
right?
thinking that.
And you see it, and you're like, oh, so it was one girl that basically ran their marketing and all their social media stuff. And
Healy.
Like, okay,
we just finished the 3rd season the other night.
But like that's the reality of what some of these businesses are doing, right? But like if I wouldn't have posted that video, if I wouldn't have taken that meeting, if I wouldn't have talked to that guy, I never would have had the opportunity to talk a lot of these other clubs. When I took that meeting, I had no intention of selling the guy anything because I didn't even know who he was or what he did.
Right.
Like I just figured there was a reason he wanted to connect with me. And most of the time I assume people are trying to sell me something, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
But he wasn't. Like he was a true networker. And that's when I started understanding why he had all the connections he had. Like I could text him right now and be like, hey, can you set up a meeting for me with the marketing director of the Cubs, right? And he would probably go, sure, right? Like that's how connected that guy is.
That's great.
But he wouldn't be able to do his VC stuff if he didn't build that network first.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
It's his entire business is based on having built networks over time. And one of the things, I don't remember if it was him that said it or someone else, right? Is, be interested, not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you're interested, people feel like you genuinely care.
Yeah.
If you are trying to be interesting, it can be off-putting.
Well, because you're constantly talking about yourself.
Correct. So networking, once again, is not about an immediate sell. Networking is about getting access to people that you might otherwise not ever had access to.
Yep. And
that's where people go wrong with networking a lot, is they're trying to sell work instead of network.
Exactly. And again, I guess now that we've gone through this, I kind of like the way they pose the question here. How do you network without looking like you're trying to network? And that's exactly what it is. Just have conversations. Conversations don't have to be about work. They don't have to be about what you do. Conversations can just be conversations.
No. Yes.
Hey, if you have kids, what do they do? How old are they? What schools are they in? Do they play football? Do they play basketball?
So you and I have talked about this I believe in the past, right? Is I always say, like, if you are networking, your ultimate goal is to build trust with other people, right?
Yep.
And let's say, for argument's sake, that it takes 10 hours worth of communication to build trust. How quickly you're going to get those 10 hours in if you know that's the number. Right? You're going to get it in as quickly as you can, right? Like, hey, let's do lunch every day for the next 10 days, right? Like, now you're 10 hours.
But it's not really quantifiable like that.
Correct. But, if you know it's a baseline, right? It's going to take more than one meeting. It's going to take more than one lunch, right? It's going to take a few hours. So why not get the hours in as quickly as you can without being pushy, right? Because ultimately you're trying to build trust with someone. If you're doing it in a way where you're pushy, it's not going to work. But you're genuinely trying to build. It's got
to be organic.
Correct.
Keep it organic.
Correct. But ultimately your goal is to build the relationship, not make the sale.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Because the relationship will lead to business down the line. Most of the time, not even with that person.
Oh no,
with other people that person knows.
Correct.
And that's how networking works.
It's the introduction to the introduction.
If you're going in there trying to say, I got to leave here with 2 or 5 sales today, you're in the wrong place.
Yep.
Doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
It's not how it works. That's why I used to love trade shows. I used to love going to trade shows for that, just to meet people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It used to be a lot of fun. Meet people, see what they do, see what other vendors are doing. I used to really enjoy doing that. Mm-hmm. And I made so many connections from doing that. Never sold anybody anything. It wasn't the purpose of doing it. It was just making those connections with people of like mind, like industry. It always worked out pretty well.
I told you the story when I went to the my very first franchise expo in the US,
I believe
right?
So, yeah.
When I met the attorney that was just sitting outside.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And that's a classic example. Like, almost all of my franchise connections today have come from me meeting him and him introducing me to others.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but if it wasn't for me having sat next to him and actually had the conversation, I wouldn't have had any of these other connections that I have today. Yeah. Right?
Can't tell how many people, as I travel a lot, I can't tell you how many people I've been on a plane. Mm-hmm. Just sitting next to them on the plane, conversation starts up. I'm a chatty guy. I like to chat, right?
Yeah.
And just sometimes not everybody, but some people I keep in contact with years later.
I know.
Maybe it's like once a quarter or something like that. But it's like, hey, how you doing? Just reach out and say hello.
Like that weirdo a few years ago that rented your Airbnb.
Yeah, that crazy guy,
right? What a
weird dude. His name was Gummy from Iceland. I mean, what's a gummy? What are you talking about?
But it's just such an example of networking opportunities are everywhere. Yeah. So yes, you can go to networking events, but there are opportunities.
In fact, that's a perfect example. That was a business transaction that had absolutely nothing to do with the businesses you and I are involved with now.
Nope.
Completely different. Out of left field. No, has nothing to do with what we do today.
And then we decided to meet up a couple of times after that. And then
we became friends.
Well,
and
some time passed, right?
Yeah.
Because we had like
COVID
sure. and all that stuff,
Right.
right? And then we reconnected through networking again, and like it was one thing led to another, and
crazy.
Here we are.
All right. So anyway, our Mud 4227. I hope that gives you some idea on what to do. I do think you have the right mindset. Network, but don't look like you're networking. That's absolutely right. Just go start relationships.
Build friendships.
Make friends.
Yes.
Exactly. I was just saying, make friends. Go make friends. Like when you were a kid. Go make friends.
Find out.
Hey guys, can I play too?
Yes,
it's exactly right.
Find out what sporting teams they like.
Yeah,
find
exactly.
out what their hobbies are.
Exactly.
Right?
All right. Let's see. This is from Flaming Zebra. If I have multiple projects under my individual LLC, how can I split equity for one of them? Ooh, I like this.
I do too.
Okay. So I have an individual LLC with multiple apps under its belt, micro, SaaS, and mobile apps. I'm looking to split equity for one of the mobile apps with a partner who's an influencer. Is the only way to do this is to create another LLC? Are there simpler ways to create legal agreement of ownership of one particular app or asset in my individual LLC? Go ahead. You're so excited for this one. I thought it was going to be a me question, but by all means, go ahead.
Yeah. So the legal side is all you, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So we did this a few years ago. So we have C Corp, right? And I believe this also applies to S Corps. But we split out our CMS system.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to take that and split it out from the business and take a loss on it.
Yeah.
Now, we took a massive loss because it was the most valuable thing in our business. And we got a huge tax write-off from it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right? So, like, there's so many ways this can be done.
But what did you do with it?
So we put it into a different entity.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So that entity got the equity from it.
Right.
We took losses from it. I forget exactly how the CPA did it, but I was like, this is brilliant. Mm-hmm. Like, now I get all the benefits on this side and I get to take losses on this side because we had it appraised, right? And it appraised at like, I don't know, call it 2.2 million, right? But the equity that we transferred it under was only $1 million. So we got to take 1.2 million in losses that we had for long-term deductions. It was like, because it's a thing, like you own it. It's a software. Like,
absolutely.
So like.
It's intellectual property.
Yes. Anyway, that's what I got excited about because like from the money side, there are so many ways this could be done where it's beneficial if you talk to the right people and have the right people help you do it.
Yeah.
Now the legal side's all you.
Yeah. No, so the question that they're asking is, do they need to start create another LLC? And I would say, do you have to? No. Should you? Yes, absolutely. The reason is because when you give somebody, so if you're okay, first off, we have to assume it's the United States. Okay. I can't speak to other countries. When you have an LLC, you have membership interest in the LLC. Okay. And it's 100% membership interest. And that's either one person or multiple people. At the end of the day, it adds up to 100%. Everything that LLC owns is owned by the members of the LLC. So you can't necessarily siphon off one asset of the LLC and say this asset is owned by this person and this person jointly, but the other assets are not.
Right. So you can't say I have 5 apps, so this app is 20% and you're going to own 20% of the 20%.
Right.
Right. Like
what you could do instead of you creating another LLC is this other person you can say that for this particular product, the LLC, your LLC owns 80% of it. And that other person, if they have their own LLC or as an individual, owns 20% of it. Right. So your LLC doesn't ever actually own 100% of that product. Right. So that's one way to do it. The smarter way, and that's the way I wouldn't recommend because it can get messy.
And why bring it up?
Well, because it is a way to do it. The smarter way to do it is my recommendation.
It's like asking someone for directions, right? And you're like, "Do you know where New York is?" Yes. Yeah. Well, it's nowhere near that.
That's funny. Yeah, I think it's that way, or it could be that way. I'm not sure. Go that way.
Yeah.
So the smarter way to do it is to create a spin-off LLC, a separate LLC. So that's here. It's the new LLC, which owns the product 100%. Your LLC owns a portion of that LLC. This other influencer, this person, however they want to do it, either as a sole proprietor or as an LLC, owns the other portion of the LLC. And again, the reason why that's safer is because the product is now owned by a different entity, and you just have membership interest in that entity. If you own the if your LLC owns the product outright with somebody else, now there's arguments that that person is a member of the LLC, and it could they're not, and it's not going to be on paper. You're not going to have an operating agreement or anything like that that says so, but there could be arguments that the intention was for them to become a member of the LLC and have access to your other applications. It's a dirty way to do it. It's a cheaper way to do it, but it's a dirty way to do it, and I wouldn't recommend it. So I would actually obviously 100% recommend create a new LLC that the app is owned wholly by that LLC, and then your LLC owns a portion of that LLC, and then this other person owns the other portion of it. That's the best way to do it, and the cleanest way.
I was going to say that sounds pretty clean.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely the cleanest way to do it.
And then just make sure the LLC, the partnership agreement for that,
the operating agreement, yes,
the spin-off LLC is structured the way you want it to be structured.
Exactly. And they got to figure out how much you're going to own, how much the influencer is going to own, et cetera, et cetera.
Voting proportions,
right.
whether payouts are going to be based on owner percentages.
Exactly.
All that stuff,
exactly. How you're gonna pay yourself from it. If you have to have consideration. So whenever you're getting a partner into an LLC, you have to have a lot of consideration. So let's talk about the equity consideration.
Are we playing the how you can get sued game?
No. We'll come to that later on.
Are we playing the what can go wrong game?
Yeah, the what can go wrong game, maybe. Right. So the equity consideration is how do you get money out of the business, right? First off, who owns what percentage? If you're 50-50, if you're 60-40, 80-20, whatever. That just because you're an 80% owner, if the operating agreement doesn't read right, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you have full control over what happens. The operating agreement might say it has to be a unanimous decision to make for just things like that. So you have to figure out first and foremost, how are you getting money out of the business? Are you paying yourselves through payroll? Do you actually have to do certain tasks in order to achieve payroll? Is it distributions like dividends, right? Things like that. Is it based on certain caps? You got to make this much money before we distribute. So there's a bunch of stuff from the equity side of things you have to take into consideration. Then the other side of it is, what happens if the company needs an influx of cash, right? Are the members required to put money up? Are they? Is it something they can do? Meaning that the members, if they have the ability, can put money into it, or that if they have the ability, they must put money into it. Is the member required to go out and raise capital in order to put an influx of cash into the business? Right. So these are the kinds, and there's 1,000 other questions too we got to answer, but these are the kinds of things you have to take into consideration when you're going to be forming any type of LLC with more than one member. So.
Especially if it's someone you don't know. Then you really want to play the what can go wrong game.
Yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong.
I know.
So many things that can go wrong. I mean, you got to talk about exit strategies. What if you went out and they don't? What if they went out and you don't? What if someone wants to buy the app, but the other person doesn't want to sell it? Right. So
what happens if one person gets injured and ends up permanently disabled?
Exactly.
Right?
What if they die?
Yeah.
Right. No, seriously, what happens? So let's say it's two guys that get together. They're both married and they don't have any provisions in their operating agreement. One of them dies. Does his wife now become
the 50% partner,
50% partner in the business?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Right. So there's so many things you have to take into consideration when doing something like this.
I think it's one of those things, and we've talked about this before, is people underestimate the amount of things that should be in a multi-member business, period. Like whether it's an LLC, like there are so many things that should be in there that people don't put in and don't think of.
Right.
Which is why it's so important to have a good attorney that will ask you those questions, right? It's not the, can you put this together? Well, yeah, I can put it together, but if they're not asking you all the questions and making you aware of all those things, that's probably not the right attorney for you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And if you go to an attorney, I can promise you this. Okay, I'm barred in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. By the way, not Delaware, Georgia, not Delaware, Georgia.
You know that always sounds weird to me.
Yeah, I know. Don't
you're
ask.
barred. You're barred from Pennsylvania.
I am barred from Pennsylvania. So any other state I can't give you advice on, but in those 3 states I can. Anyway, point being, if you go to an attorney and you say I want to start an LLC, and they say here, fill out this form, and then pay me. You're at the wrong attorney.
Yes.
That should be at least an hour-long conversation with you and your partners about the ins and outs of what you should do, what the problems you might incur, what kind of strategies you need to implement. If it is a fill this out, because that's the problem a lot of times with things like LegalZoom and stuff like that, right? Not to name drop, but they're a good service. Don't get me wrong; they do exactly what they say they're going to do.
So,
but the advice that you need is not coming from those people.
No. Not at all.
And it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
If you're just setting up a sole proprietor LLC, yes, you could probably get away with doing that. But the moment it's more than one person, and I don't know if you've ever gone through the LegalZoom process, but
I have, yeah.
So like they ask a bunch of good questions, but I feel like they're all like starter questions.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're questions that are meant to make you think, what's the next step? Like what's beyond this?
Right.
And like, if you feel like that's the case, you probably shouldn't continue using something like that. You probably need someone that's been there, done that, and can ask all the additional questions because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
You don't know to ask certain
until
questions.
It's too late.
Correct. And I don't care whether it's setting up an LLC or creating your will, right? Like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And like go see an attorney if you're doing this. I don't care if you're splitting something out or setting up a new one.
I'll tell you, me personally, I love when new business owners come to me and ask for, hey, we're thinking of doing this. I'll give them a bunch of things to think about. And my consultations are generally free for the first time. And I'll give them a whole bunch of stuff to think about. Like, wow, we never thought about that. It's like, that's right. Now go think about it, make some decisions. And when you're ready, come back to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be a process, right?
So anyway, Flaming Zebra, that's what I recommend you do. I recommend you take it, put it into the app into a separate LLC, and then the two of you have equity interest in that or membership interest in that LLC. And but again, there's a lot of considerations when doing that. Leave us a note in the comments. Maybe we'll if you have questions about it, we'll get you some good advice here.
And drop the app name as well.
I'd
be curious to see what the app is.
All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. This is from Kitchen Librarian 2526. It says, 2 college guys asking for startup tips. Why not? All right. Hello. Me and my college best friend recently graduated from UC Davis. Good school. With design degrees. We came up with an idea that we believe can go far and bring good to the community if we can bring it to life, but are completely new to entrepreneurship and startups. So I was wondering if anyone who has certain experiences can help us with a few foundational and open-ended questions to guide us to think. Anything would be appreciated. Number 1, what are the first steps we need to take to transform an idea to a business? 2, who should we talk to? Where should we go to proceed with the idea? 3, anything we can do right now to become more ready to actually launch the product when the time is right? And 4, I've been listening to podcasts about different entrepreneurs and their stories while reading experiences from Reddit. What else can I do? Both of us believe that creating startups and growing them to solve problems people face are our true passion. Please provide any help. Well, first off, you should be listening to this podcast. Well, that's number 1, right? Go back, listen to all the episodes of this podcast, and 95% of your questions are probably going to be answered. But we'll answer them here anyway. What the heck?
So I saw a great video clip this morning. And
was it our podcast?
It wasn't our podcast. It was actually a different podcast. They release video and audio clips, right?
Okay.
But the guy was saying, and it's a well-known guy that got interviewed, right? And the funny thing is most people didn't even know who he was in the video, right? Because it was just like a short clip. And he goes, do you know why SpaceX is succeeding right now and Boeing is not?
Okay.
SpaceX is launching stuff and learning from the mistakes. Boeing is trying to build something for 5 years and hope it's perfect.
True. How true is that?
right?
Yeah.
And when he said it, I was like, damn.
You're talking about that airplane, the one they're trying to make for the government, and they can't get it to work.
They can't get it to
They
work,
spent like
right?
$1 trillion on it already.
Right. But and I was like, he's right? Like that's how you take the step to transform a idea to a business. Is you have to go experiment, go see if you can sell it, go see if someone's interested, go make the prototype and watch it go up in flames. Like you just have to take the steps. There's no right or wrong steps. Well, I shouldn't say that. The right steps are always moving. The wrong step is sitting in analysis paralysis. That's the wrong step.
Right.
You should be doing things. Yes, you're listening to podcasts and all this stuff, but that's advancing your understanding. That's not advancing your idea. You have to go do something about it. Like if it's a product, you have to be you should already be working on the prototype, right? You should already be seeing whether or not people are interested in it. You could put it on pre-order. You can put it on Kickstarter. You can, like, there's so many things you can do to evaluate whether or not it's a good idea for a product before you ever turn it into like a real business.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And for people, especially people right out of college that don't have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship, I know it's going to sound dorky and quirky, but go build a business plan. And the reason I say that is because you'll be, when doing it, you'll be required to do a lot of research into a lot of different areas, whether it's sales and marketing, prototype development, networking, whatever, what have you, raising capital. You'll be forced, if you do it the right way, you'll be forced to actually learn these things. And as you're learning them, that's going to really help you along the way as well.
So the Small Business Administration, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have on their website like here's how to build your business plan.
Yeah.
And it was literally a document you could download. And I was like, oh, it's the government. It's got to be crap, right?
That was good. I've seen it. It's good.
So I've seen it too.
Yeah.
Like in fact, I've sent it to multiple people because I used to have a copy of it. And I would be like, hey, if you're starting with something, start here.
Yeah.
Only did I recently find out that draft that they give you, that document, was actually written by retired multi-billion-dollar CEOs.
Oh, is that right?
It was written by people that had started up businesses and built it to like these weren't like some.
So not some lowly clerk in an office somewhere who's never started a business in their life.
No, the entire draft that they put out apparently was written by like.
That's awesome.
Part of their SCORE program.
I like that.
Right. And if you look at what SCORE is a bunch of people that are either in business or retired from business that are helping new people get into business. And when I found that out and I read through it again, I was like, now it makes sense why they're asking some of these questions, because like I know when I went to school and did my business classes and stuff, some of these questions were never asked.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff in there was never taught in school. But it's because they were real life questions that you don't know until you actually start trying to do it for the first time.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know to ask.
Correct.
You wouldn't know to answer things. And that's why I like the idea of the business plan, because the business plan is going to give you, if you've never done it before, it's going to give you a very good foundation of all the things you need to take into consideration when starting and running your business. It's not going to give you the answers, but it's going to give you at least an understanding of what questions you need to solve, what problems you need to solve, and what questions need to be asked.
And it also forces you to put a timeline in place.
Yeah, it does.
Right? So someone once said the difference between a goal and a dream is a timeline.
Yeah.
Right?
True. I've heard that. Where did I hear that at?
I don't know.
I know I heard that. I think it was like a movie or something.
So yes, you can have dreams of starting a business, but if you don't put a goal in place with a timeline for when you want to start and what you want to do, then it's just a dream, right?
So that answers number one, right? What are the first steps? So number two is, who should we talk to? Well, you mentioned it, right? Something like a SCORE, right? For people that don't know what SCORE is, you want to explain that, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. So SCORE is an organization. I'll look up the name real quick. But SCORE is an organization that it's a resource for people. Okay. I'm just trying to see what the name actually stands for. I can never remember what it stands for.
So it's actually it's part of the Small Business Administration's. Basically, what they do is they take people that are willing to give back that have either been in business or in business, have expertise in certain business fields, and they have these meetings. There's SCORE chapters all over the country.
Here it is.
There's
Service Corps of Retired Executives.
Yep.
I knew that at one point. I can't remember what it was.
But not everybody is a retired executive.
No.
So like I used to teach for SCORE. I used to teach startups and entrepreneurs how to do the basics of their branding and marketing. Right. So they actually got to talk to someone that not only had done it, but also worked in that industry currently. Right. So like I wasn't giving them information that was 20 years old because that's when I retired. I was giving them like current information. So SCORE is a completely undervalued resource that people don't use. And I think like 99% of their stuff is free.
Huh.
Right. Like
I think so. I think
you don't have to pay anything to go to their events or.
I can't think of anything you have to pay for them.
I can't either. Now that I'm thinking about it, but like SCORE is a great one to go to. I recommend going to, go on like meetup.com.
Yep.
There are a bunch of people that are in that same, like we're thinking about it, where to turn. And there's a bunch of people that show up. I used to be part of one, it was a meetup over in like somewhere in Jersey. Right. And basically what they would do is, they would invite 4 or 5 of us that were already in business. And then every other guest there was someone that was in the starting phases or thinking about it. And they would literally slap us up on a panel and we would answer questions from people, right? Like, and we got basic questions like, hey, how do I set up an LLC?
Right.
Like it was literally like anything from base level to, people that were in the process of starting it and going, okay, how do I position my business? Like, how do I price my service? Right. And different people on the panel were able to help at least answer some of the questions.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? You have like a panel of people together. You're helping people that are just trying to get out and start make a name in the world.
I have never met a business owner that has not been willing to give time to someone that's trying to start a business.
Agreed. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Ever. Right.
And people are like, oh, and I've recommended this in the past, and of course, people never want to follow up. Someone who's in a similar business, give them a call.
Yeah.
Hey, what did you guys do to start up? They'll be happy to talk to you 99% of the time. They really would. They love it. Hey, come on over for lunch. I'll show you around the warehouse. You know? They would love to do that in most cases. Not always, but in most cases.
Yeah. I remember there was a client of mine was opening a bakery in like a town.
Yeah.
Like a small town, right? And she was struggling with like, I don't know, how I should position it and all that stuff. And I'm like, do you know other people in the town that own like restaurants or other businesses that have been around for a while? And she's like, I don't know them, but I know what businesses have been here for, 20 years plus. Right. I'm like, have you gone and talked to them? She's like, how do I do that? I'm like,
call them.
You don't even have to call them. Up. Walk into their business and go, hey, can I talk to the owner? I'm thinking about opening up a bakery down the street and I'd love to, get some help. Once again, I don't know any business owner that would kick them out. They may not give them 10 hours of their time.
Yeah, but the walk-in might be tough only because it might be really busy right then. So I like the schedule.
You have to have situational awareness,
of course.
Right? Like if you go into a clothing store and there's absolutely nobody there.
Oh, yeah, they don't care.
And be respectful of their time. If a customer walks in, remember you're there for a favor. The customer's there to spend money. Yep. But yeah, I can't tell you. When I opened up one of my businesses, which was actually a website, right? I knew another guy. I didn't know him. I just knew his name. That was running a website that kind of would run parallel to what mine did.
Yeah.
So I remember I called him up and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about setting up a website that provides this information and does this for the community. And he goes, great. Do you need connections to advertisers? I was like, what? I was like, yes, I'll take it. He's like, but for right now, I just wanted to like have a conversation to see like what some of your challenges were when you started and like how you got to the point you did. And he's like, come on over. And ended up spending almost the entire day with me. Yeah. Right. And that allowed me to learn from his mistakes, like where he flat out told me like, this is where I went wrong. This is what
I've done that with people. I've sat with people and gave them great advice. Went to lunch or spent a couple hours with them. Great advice on how to do X, Y, or Z. I like doing that. I enjoy it.
I do that all the time. Yeah. I had a guy run it. I was at a networking event. This is probably 6 months ago. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, hey, Gummy, I wanted to say thank you. And I'm like, okay. He's like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, honestly, I don't. He's like, I applied for a job and came in for an interview 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, like, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Like, I interviewed 20,
How are
20.
you?
And he's like, you told me I would not get the job. He's like, but the stuff you told me lit a fire under my butt. I went out and I started doing this. I went and got a job with Chick-fil-A. And from Chick-fil-A, I was able to start building my experience, which then built my reputation. And he's like, now I have an agency that does $300,000 a year.
There you go.
All because of he came in for a job interview and something in that conversation. And I was thinking about it like after he left, I was like, oh, that was that guy that I said you'd be better off being an entrepreneur than an employee.
Look at you, the humanitarian.
I wouldn't call it human, because most of the time I tell people the other thing.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure.
But it was just funny, like even without knowing, I was having a conversation with someone that then went out on their own and grew their own business. Like
that's so cool. Yeah, I love that. I think that's great.
So,
all right, third question. Anything we can do right now to become more ready to actually launch the product? You said it earlier. Start building your prototype. Start building your prototype. Start looking into the market, seeing what people are doing. Start thinking about, how your customers are going to use the product, whatever it is.
Set up pre-orders. Start trying to separate people from their money.
I love when you say that.
No,
it
but
sounds so like mischievous. Separate people from their money.
Correct.
A fool and his dollar will never.
But that's what it boils down to. Because and the reason I say it that way, and I always say it that way, is because I have people that come to me with like nonprofit ideas, and I always tell them the same thing. Everyone will tell you it's a great idea. You'll know it's a great idea when you can separate the dollars from the person, because then they're not just telling you it's a great idea. They're showing you that they believe in the idea and would be willing to help fund it.
Yeah.
If you can't get donations from friends and family for your idea, chances are you're going to have a really hard time getting strangers to give you money for your idea.
Completely agreed. Yeah.
Right. Like
I know it's a tough one because, people will, they don't recognize that not everybody's going to see your product the way you see it.
Mm.
So if you give them a reason to say, oh, that's something I would buy and let me give you some money, then you have a viable idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great product. Perfect. Would you be willing to pre-order one for 50% off?
Yeah. Right. Yes. Right. Exactly. So, all right. 2 college guys. So kitchen librarian. That's, I hope that gives you some of your answers. Mm-hmm. But go watch the rest of our podcast. You'll enjoy. Seriously.
Well, what he has here is a great start.
No,
right?
It's a very good start.
It's always indicating when someone's asking certain questions, you're going to figure it out, right? As long as you don't overanalyze and you keep moving forward, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. All right, moving on. This one looks interesting here. How to know when it's time to call it quits. That's a thing. That is absolutely a thing.
It is a thing.
This is from Will Schroeder. It says, I spent a lot of time talking to founders about whether or not they should fold the tents, quote unquote, with their startup. It happens a lot. I've been through it personally multiple times, and yeah, it totally sucks. But I think one thing I've learned is that time based on my own experience, and talking to lots of other founders, is that there's an interesting decision process to follow. Number 1, I'm keeping this going because I just need more time to be successful. If there's clearly light at the end of the tunnel, and this is what you want to be doing no matter what, then yes, it may be worth it to keep going. Or number 2, I'm keeping this going because I don't want to fail. This is actually a trap that most founders are in. They are long past the point where they believe the startup will be successful. They just don't want it to fail. I've never met a startup founder who succeeded by simply avoiding failure. I got into this doom loop myself multiple times when I was so preoccupied with saving my startup that I lost sight of the fact that there wasn't any opportunity worth saving. No one wants to save your dying startup with an investment. At some point, the only person that even thinks it's worth considering is the founder, who is often in a very isolated place at the time. Wow, that's spot on with those 2 points, right? I mean, that's absolutely true. If you are in a business that nobody else cares about. You're having a hard time getting customers. You're having a hard time selling. You have a product that no one really cares about. It's not interesting. You're probably in that second option where it's like it's you're only keeping going because you don't want to face failure.
Fear of failure is a real
Fear
thing.
of failure is a thing.
It's a thing,
and
right?
it can cost you a lot.
Correct. And this is always the hard time. These are the hardest conversations I have. Is I will sometimes get people that come to us and they're like, "Well, we just need more marketing to save the business."
Right.
And I look at what they're doing and what they have been doing and how much money they've spent on doing it. And I look at whatever it is that they have, and like having to tell someone all the marketing in the world is not going to save you because people aren't buying what you're selling.
Right.
Is one of the hardest conversations, right? And, the whole start it or scrap it. Sometimes, yes, you should start it, but you should be ready to scrap it if all the things are against you. Now, I'm not advocating for people giving up, right? This is a reality check, right? Every once in a while, you got to put your finger on the pulse, so to speak, and go, okay, am I realistically, do I actually think this is working? Do I think this is going to work? Am I just missing a component? Or have I done everything right and it's still not working? Well, if that's the case, then maybe it's time to move on to something else. And I learned a long time ago that, and this is a cliche and it's very hard to live by, but there is no such thing as failure. There's only learning experiences.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
I had a business that we've talked about this before that basically went bankrupt, right? I learned from it, right? Was it an expensive lesson? Well, yeah, so is college,
Yeah.
right? But what I learned from that made me capable of setting up the next business. And then I sold that. And that made me capable of setting up the next business. And I learned something from every business because they were all different as well. But, I probably knew deep inside, even with a business that failed, where I wasn't like where I hired my uncle to do I probably knew deep inside that it was failing before that, right? Like,
But you don't want to admit it to yourself.
Correct. Right.
You know
like,
how hard it is to admit to yourself that you failed at something?
Yeah,
people don't want to do
correct. That. And it actually took me like a good year or two after that failed to realize that, just because that failed, so to speak.
It's no shame.
No, the failure would have been if I didn't take the lessons from it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way it really would have failed.
Yep.
is if I did it and it went under and I learned nothing.
And you tried to do the exact same thing over again. Yeah.
That would be failure.
That would be failure.
Shutting something down does not make it a failure. No. Right? Your car doesn't fail when you push the on and off button, right? Like, just because you shut something down doesn't mean that it's failed.
Yeah.
And there's so many factors, right? Like, did restaurants fail during COVID when people weren't able to go out?
Yeah.
No, things changed, right?
Well,
it was
the restaurant didn't, when you say fail, some restaurants went out of business.
Correct. Did they fail?
Right. It's not their fault.
Correct. They could have been hugely successful and then something from the outside forced them to shut down. Was that a failure on their behalf? Right. Was there anything they could have done to save it? Right. Like it's just such it's a mindset thing, right? Like you are not in control of everything, and failure is the inability to learn from what you did.
Yeah.
To me.
So the thing that people have to do is you have to be able to admit to yourself when it's over. And it's a very difficult thing to do. It's almost like a relationship, right? Yep. How long do people stay in broken relationships just because they don't want to admit the relationship failed? It's the same thing with business.
Way longer than they should.
Longer than they should. And it's the same thing with business. A lot of times is, look, the business just isn't going anywhere. I mean, a good starting point for determining that, if you want empirical evidence, is look at your last 2 years of sales and then your last 6 months of sales and last 3 months of sales. And if there's no trend going up, something's wrong.
If you are accumulating more debt without an end in sight, you probably should stop accumulating debt. And see how long you last. Right? Because I have seen business owner after business owner that keeps accumulating debt in that, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Right? At some point, you may want to say, I'm not willing to take any more debt, because the other thing in that is the more debt you take on, the less access to debt or money you will have for whatever you do next. Right? And I always look at that, just because this one didn't work doesn't mean the next one won't. Unless there's something fundamentally wrong with how you are building a business or trying to build a business.
Yeah, and you don't want to put your life savings into something that's just going to fail. And a lot of times, yes, there's absolutely stories out there where someone was just about to close out their business and this big deal came through at the last minute. Yes, of course. You know what else there is? There's stories people win the Powerball. Right? Far and few between.
Yes.
Okay, so don't take the story of, the guy was days away from going bankrupt and then suddenly a savior came in and say, doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. In fact, it's probably not going to happen to you.
If you are actively out there supporting the business, trying to make sales, and sales aren't coming in. And this is the other trap that I see a lot of people fall into is, I had a sales guy once. Every time he had a really great meeting, he would come to me and say, hey, we have a new customer. And I would always ask that they sign the dotted line. And if the answer was no,
they're not a customer.
We don't have a new customer. Right? We have a very, very interested customer, but we don't have a customer, right? And ultimately, I had to let that sales guy go because he thought he was closing a lot more deals than what he actually was. Because I remember when I did his, the last conversation I had with him before I fired him was, how much did you do in sales last year? And in his head, he had done 3 times more than what he actually did. Right?
Really?
Yes.
So he didn't even know his real numbers?
No, because he kept getting confused with the sales he almost closed with the sales that he closed.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that guy should not be in business.
He wasn't in business. He was a sales guy, right? But
I'm saying he shouldn't be in business at all.
He would come and celebrate that he had a deal, right? And no signature on the dotted line. Well, no signature on the dotted line means no income. And you can't live on that. And it's unfortunately a trap that I see some business owners go into, right? Especially if they're selling a service, is that they always get so close to closing the deal that they keep thinking, oh, the next one's going to be it. The next one's going to be it. The next one's going to be it. Oh, I'm doing so well. Well, no, you're not. If people aren't signing the damn dotted line, you are not doing well at all. Now, that could be an easy fix. Right? Like it could be you just need an outside party to go, this is why people aren't signing. And your business could be fine. You could also have a conversation with someone that looks at it and goes, the reason they aren't signing is because they love the idea, but it's not an idea that can separate people from their money, which is why you aren't getting signatures on the dotted line. Right? And that could be the harsh reality.
It's a very harsh reality.
It is, right? Like, I'll tell you. So a business that I did not think this business would be a thing. Have you seen what is it called? Like the Poopa Scoopa business, whatever. If you would have told me 5 years ago that someone was struggling to get their business off the ground and what they were doing was picking up dog poop, I probably would have said it's because it might not be a thing, right? Like that might not be a business.
Right.
If they would have talked to someone else about it, the person might have told them, oh, you're just going to the wrong areas, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I would have told them, like, so you can talk to 2 different people with a business and one person tells you, I don't think this is an idea, but the other person says, hey, you're putting your flyers on the wrong houses, right? both are legitimate answers. The question then becomes, if you're not willing to go put the flyers on the right house and you
Right.
want to keep putting it where you have been putting it, then neither advice is going to be good for you.
Yeah.
And that's taking the advice is sometimes the hard part. And I remember, I remember talking to someone, and we literally gave them the solution to saving their business. This story still hurts because the guy ended up in a really, really bad place. So we told him what he needed to do to save his business, and he talked to a family member that told him something different. And his business went under, and I found out about it, and I called him and I said, why didn't you listen? Like, we gave you the solution. And his answer was, I liked the answer I got from my family member better.
Come on.
But it made me think about it. Like, how often do people take it the wrong advice because it sounds better to them?
It happens in legal practice all the time.
Right. Then
the time.
The right answer could have saved his business.
Oh, this other attorney told me this. Then go to that other attorney.
Correct.
6 months later, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
They were wrong. Or they fluffed it up
Correct.
more than what it was. Yeah. Oh my God.
But in that case, you're actually talking like two professionals with two different opinions.
Yeah.
We were literally, in this case, talking
but naysayers.
But good or bad advice has nothing to do with how it was presented to you or how much you like or you dislike it.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Either it's solid advice or it isn't. It could also be solid advice for someone else and not work for you, which is why I always encourage people, talk to more than one person.
Yeah.
This is where networking comes in. This is where it's important. Create access to more people that have been there, done that, because you will get, not everybody grows the same way. Not everybody built their business the same way, right? Like, do you think I built my business the same way as the florist we know?
Right.
No.
No.
Did I build it the same way as
me?
As you?
Of course not.
Did we build it did either one of us build it the same way LinkedIn did?
I'm going to go with a no
on that one, right?
Hard no on that one.
Or Microsoft, right? Like,
right.
So like, not every business has the same path, but there is not one path to success. There is a path that works for you, assuming that path exists to the end customer and getting someone to pay for what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So
sounded awfully philosophical.
It was. Well, it's a philosophical question. The whole question is about, when is it time to call it quits? That's a philosophical question, which requires a philosophical answer. So, well, Schroeder, thank you, because your points are well founded.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the two options: I'm keeping this going because I just need more time, or I'm keeping this going because I don't want to fail.
Yep.
And if you're the latter of those two, it's probably time to get out.
Yep.
So. Thank you for putting that out there. I think that is definitely a world of information that will help other people. All right. Validate my startup idea. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Been a while since we've seen one of these. All right, let's see. This is from Nervous810, who says, it's a parking app. I love parking apps. Okay. Finding parking is a nightmare in busy cities. What if you could reserve a spot in advance instead of endlessly circling around? Here's how it would work. Bob knows he's leaving his parking spot in 5 minutes and notifies it through the app. Alice is looking for parking in that area and reserved Bob's spot. Alice drives there, waits for Bob to leave, and takes the spot. Alice pays Bob X tokens, which she previously bought in the app. Bob converts and withdraws the tokens to dollars or some other currency. Would you use an app like this? Any flaws in the concept? Oh, where do I begin?
I will only download this if he calls it the parking mafia.
I like it. No, okay. All right. I actually thought my friend and I had a conversation about this maybe 10 years ago about doing something like this. And we very quickly decided, no, this wasn't going to work for us. And the problem was this: Bob, let's say Bob's legit. And Bob says, yeah, I'm leaving the spot in 5 minutes. And Alice says, great, I'll be right there. Meanwhile, Alice is actually 2 cities over and 45 minutes away, because that's what people are going to do. Well, how often do people say, "Yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes," and they haven't even left the house yet?
But you have to remember with GPS technology and stuff now, and the cell phones and all that stuff, like you could say only people within X mile radius can reserve the spot.
Okay,
right?
sure. So Alice is within the X mile radius, but she's actually at the Whole Foods and she's waiting in line, and she's going to be in the area. She's 5 minutes away, but she's 20 minutes from checking out. The problem is you can't trust people.
So put a timer on it.
No, but here's the problem. Bob's gone. Bob's leaving. Bob's not waiting around anymore.
Which is fine. Then the spot becomes vacant.
Yeah.
Right? Which is okay. I'm okay with that. Right? If Alice reserved it and Alice doesn't show up, that's on Alice.
Yeah.
Bob waits his 5 minutes. Bob gets his token. Bob leaves.
Oh, Bob still gets a token.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if he's taking
it's like Uber. If you cancel the trip, you still have to pay something.
Correct. If you're taking 5 minutes of my time for me waiting for you and you don't show up, should I not get paid for those 5 minutes?
Okay. Now, what if it's a spot that Bob doesn't own a car? Bob just walks around from spot to spot and holds the spot for people, like line holders. You've seen line holders. Bob does this. He's holding spots for people.
Do I get to pull up and park in that spot? If I do, I will gladly. Because here's the thing. I will tell you this, and it drives my wife nuts. I will not drive into places like Doylestown, Collegeville.
Why not? Parking?
Yes.
I never have any parking.
I always say if I can't park right outside of the place that I'm going into, no, don't give me that look. I have a car. I live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
I can make that as part of my shopping decision process.
Spoiled.
I know. 100%. Same thing.
I grew up in the city. Totally different.
When I go to DC or New York, I will book my parking garage before I get there because
right. I do too.
But I will plan. So if your restaurant isn't near a parking garage,
I'm not going to that restaurant.
I am never coming to that restaurant.
Oh, New York, I agree with you. I agree with you in New York.
Same thing in Philadelphia, same thing in any major city. If you are not within what I consider a comfortable walking distance for me from a parking garage that I can pre-book my spot in, you will never see my business.
That can't be a thing in New York. It can't be. It's parking garages everywhere.
You would think.
What's comfortable for you? 20-minute walk?
Hell no.
Walk? No?
No, if you're not in like a 5-minute walking distance,
get
I'm not
out
coming
of
to
here.
your restaurant.
That's like a tenth of a mile.
Not doing it.
That's like across the street.
Right. But if I knew that I could drive in to Philly, for example, with this app, and let's say you get some popularity and there's a bunch of people on this app, I would use this app because
I would too.
If I'm driving down South Street and I see, Joan is getting out of her car and I'm half a mile away, boom. And then I'll park there and I'll eat at whatever restaurants within a 5-minute walk of where Joan left her.
No, I like the idea of the app. Don't get me wrong. Maybe I didn't make that clear. It was the question about any flaws.
There's a bunch of flaws.
The flaws are people. People are flawed.
Yeah, but Uber has flaws. Lyft has flaws. Airbnb has flaws, right? Airbnb, in fact, has so many flaws that you stop doing it.
I stopped doing it, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So how many Uber drivers do you know that stopped doing it because they said it was dumb, right? Like that. So there's always going to be flaws. It's just a matter of, can you make the positives outweigh the flaws, right? And Airbnb has been able to do so. Uber Eats, any of these, all of these apps have flaws. They have flaws for the recipient and it's flaws on both ends, but we have collectively decided that we're willing to live with those flaws because we like the service.
No, I agree, and I think this could be a good service. I like the idea.
I love this.
Yeah, I know it's cool.
I'm gonna see. Maybe there's
I'm sure there's a shared parking or something like that.
No, parking mafia. That's what I want him to.
Parking mafia.
That's what I want him to name it.
So why is it parking mafia?
Because it's like a little crowd of people that are like forcing other people out and not giving them the opportunities, and I just like parking mafia.
That's funny.
You could go with something boring like Park Swap. Like it's just boring.
How funny would it be if Bob and Alice comes up, right? And she's like, "Hey, I'm ready to park." And Bob takes off. And as Bob comes up, it's right. It's a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. I mean, but all that stuff, once again, it could happen. Like you could show up at an Airbnb and, it's flooded, like stuff happens.
Yeah.
You could show up and there's been a burglary. Like there's all kinds of bad things that can happen. But like, I kind of like this idea. I do.
It's no, again, well, it's like I said, a buddy of mine and I talked about it a while ago. We probably spent about 2 hours discussing it. We had some good ideas to make it work and stuff, but we knew we never obviously followed through with it. I just feel like the people are going to be the issue as always. They're always the issue.
I think the issue is going to be,
you got to take into consideration how big is the actual space, how big is the car you have, right?
But let's assume, like, have you ever driven in London or Italy or any of the?
Yes.
Think of the parking there instead of thinking like Philadelphia, because Philadelphia has parking garages all over the place.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw a parking garage in Rome?
Sure.
Near anything that was worth visiting?
Yeah.
Right?
No, all you see, there's no entry zones where you go through them by mistake and get a $300 fine.
I have a feeling this guy is not in the US, right? Because like because he puts euro before USD.
Euro and USD, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But like London, this would be phenomenal. Like I remember driving through London and I'm like, where do people park here? Like if you have to park, you're nowhere near anything.
Yeah.
Like I think there are definitely parts of the world, even in Colombia. Like when I go to Colombia, like finding parking, it's like a weird, they'll have like, we had to go to this bakery, and this bakery is like a weird part of town, and there is nothing but street parking, but there is a gazillion people around. So like it took us longer to find a parking spot than it took to drive there.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know that feeling.
This would solve that. This would solve it.
Someone was moving out, but yeah, sure. It
could solve it, right? Like I would download the app that might be able to solve my problem, because it is one of those things that annoys me beyond belief.
Like figure out the size issue is something I think we talked about. We had a solution to it. I forget what it was.
I'm a prime candidate for this, right? Well, if she's driving a Suzuki Swift or
it's not that. It wasn't so much that as,
but car size is another thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
The car size, but it's the car size, but it's also the space size, because sometimes you have plenty of room between cars. Other times there's this much room between cars.
Yeah, but if you're parked there, I kind of need to know. Like, if you are driving what's the smallest car? A Golf GTI.
Yeah.
And I haul along in my Suburban.
Right.
Right. I may not fit in your spot.
But there's a thing to that. Let's say both people are driving the Golf GTIs, right? But there's only this much room because the person who parked is an expert parker.
Yes.
And the other person can't parallel park very well.
That's a you problem.
Well, that's a problem.
It's
a problem nonetheless. Because the spot was there.
Correct.
They don't know how to fit into it.
That's a new person coming into the spot problem. If you have two identical cars, and one person was able to park there and the other one is not, if you are reviewing challenges for the spot didn't fit, and there's two Golf GTIs and you're like, why couldn't you fit in there? It's because you're a bad driver. You don't get your credit tokens. Like, go learn how to drive.
How many people don't know how to parallel park?
Oh, my wife can't parallel park. It was one of the reasons I got the ID4.
I would have to guess. If I know way more than 100 people, but if I know 100 people, bet you 70 of them do not know how to parallel park.
Yes, I would agree with that, right? And which is why, like in I forget where it is. There's apparently somewhere in Europe where you legally, if you are parked on a flat, you have to leave your car in neutral.
Really?
Yeah.
So they can push it.
So they can bump the next car in.
Yeah.
I want to say it's a law, but like that's generally what people do, because they know they're going to get bumped and the damage on the car is far less than if you leave it in neutral. Than if you, And I was like, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. But it leads to probably a lot of bad drivers.
All right. Nervous 810. I like the app idea. I thought of something like this. We had some things we just couldn't work out of ourselves. Maybe you'll work it out. You're right. GPS is way better now than it was 10 years ago. Maybe that solves a lot of the problems. I forget. We talked about this for several hours.
But there's going to be multiple. This is one of those where you really have to think every problem through, right?
Yeah, right.
What if it's a metered spot? Are you willing to take a metered spot, right?
Quarters.
Right. Like, is there, especially in the US, like, is it a machine that takes credit cards, or do you still have to have quarters? Right. Like, because I can't tell you the last time I had a quarter in my car.
What happens when you pull up and it's actually a no loading zone, right? or no stopping zone because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
loading zone. That's what
Yeah.
you know what I meant.
Or temporary parking, 30-minute parking.
Right.
Your
And it expires in 5 minutes.
Your appointment is 45 minutes, right? Like, yeah, there's all kinds of
There's all
things.
kinds of things to work
So
out.
like, yes, there's got to be a way to challenge to get your tokens back. But overall, I think that's a minority of problems, just like Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, any of these.
The problem Uber's having, and we'll move on after this because we're going to wrap up soon. But one of the problems Uber's having right now is people canceling the ride mid-ride.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one for you where like there's problems that people don't know is a problem until it's a problem. Like when you go onto like Kayak or cheapflights.com, whatever it is, right? And you book a flight and it's a connecting flight and it has you flying on, I don't know, Delta, the first part, and American Airlines, the second part. If that Delta flight is delayed, nobody is responsible for you. And people don't know this, right? They think, well, but they sold me the trip. And they're like, it's not the same airline. They're not responsible.
They don't care.
Right? They will go, go talk to Kayak, right? That's their problem. Like Delta wasn't responsible to get you there in time because they're only sold you this part of the leg, right? It's two completely separate flights. It is not.
And you missed the second one.
It's all on you, right?
I know. It's scary, man. People don't realize how dangerous that can be.
When you talk to a travel agent, you start realizing why you want to stick with travel agents or single airlines.
Yeah, because they'll take care of you.
Oh yeah. Well, they're legally obligated to.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
All right, last one coming. This is from Mysterious Dish 9529. How are you all marketing? Gummy, this is a you question. Can't wait. Hi, I've had a slow start with my startup and would love some guidance on some marketing ideas. I'm curious as to how everyone else is marketing their startups. I have an app and I'm finding it difficult to get it out there sufficiently. It can't just be Facebook ads, surely. Also, it claims I have a lot of link clicks, but there doesn't seem to show in my analytics. Is there some other site like Reddit I could be posting on? Any ideas? I don't know what the app does, but how do you market an app? I'll give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
All right. I have a game app that I built not too long ago.
I thought you were going to go with parking app. You have a parking app.
I have a parking app. Okay, I have a parking app.
No, you can swap spots.
I have a parking app where it's interesting. It's relatively new, and if you're in a city or something like that, and you're leaving, you can say, "Hey, I'm leaving in a few minutes," and if somebody wants a spot, they can come up and get that spot.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a really cool app idea, right?
It is, really.
So, what would you do with that?
So, this is exactly why, like, the type of app you have matters where you market it.
Of course.
Just like any other product, right? So, let's take a game and let's take a parking app.
Okay.
Parking app, you are most likely going to market that in places where people have disposable income, right? So, you want to hit people that are 40 plus, because the average 22-year-old is not going to care whether he walks 5 minutes or 8 minutes, nor would he be willing to pay someone $6 to hold a spot for them, right? So that marketing would be primarily through social media, just like what he's saying, like Facebook, all that stuff. You could even venture into places like TikTok or LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn would probably be a good spot for it too. But most of those types of apps would be through social media because they're not a need-based, they are suggestion-based. And that's how I always tell people the difference, right? Is if you have a product that people will search out because they need it, your marketing strategy is different than if you're trying to get someone to adopt a new idea or buy something they otherwise wouldn't have bought, right? So like with the apps, Facebook has a great environment to advertise this on. Where he's going wrong is he's saying, oh, but it's showing I have a lot of link clicks, but it's not showing in the analytics. So you have to remember there's a difference between a link click and a page load.
Okay.
Right? So if I click on a link, it will register as a click. If I close that out before
the page loads, right? Usually before the full page loads.
Correct. Before basically the analytics registers that you were there and it loaded, it's not going to show up on the analytical side, right? So the metrics are always going to be different. The only metric that matters, and all of your campaigns for stuff like this should be set up to reflect the cost per download, not the cost per click.
Yeah.
No awareness campaigns to start with. This should all, because when you get the actual download, the algorithm also learns who to show it to.
Right.
When you just have link clicks, and especially people not loading the full thing and showing on the analytics, it's an indicator that people are accidentally clicking the link click and it's being shown to all the wrong people.
Right.
But if link clicks are the metric you set, they're going to show it to more of those people that clicked it accidentally.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So like, let's say your app is showing to older people that happen to like push longer or push in a weird spot on the screen. You're going to get shown more to those types of people. Right?
Okay.
And if your demographic is a younger audience with a game that is far more tech savvy, they're far more likely to not indeliberately hit that.
Sure.
So yeah, those are some basics. I mean, it's 90% of this game, no pun intended.
Yeah.
90% of the marketing game is just getting in front of a mass load of people with a conversion goal in mind so that you can start learning initially who's even downloading this app. Because it may not always be the people you think.
Yeah, it might be a completely different audience that you never even considered.
Correct.
And now you tailor your message toward that audience and you realize, oh my God, this is working.
And then you adapt all your campaigns towards that.
Yeah.
And then once you have that market well settled, you can move on to a different market and start adjusting your messaging. That's kind of like the core of how all this works.
Very cool.
Very basic.
Yeah.
Marketing is easy. Like the problem is
execution is hard, but
I wouldn't even say that, because like I was talking to someone yesterday and they kept asking, well, does the message matter? And I'm like, not as much as you think. Like it matters when you get into granular details.
Right.
But 50% of your battle is just the fact that people are now seeing it. Right? Like once you get people to see it, then we can start adjusting performance metrics.
Right.
But if they aren't seeing it at all, there's no performance metrics to measure. There's no changes to make. There's no messaging to fix. And the other problem is people often run these campaigns on way too low of a budget.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. They think $100 is going to solve all their problems.
Yeah.
No, that's an excellent point. Okay. So I'm going to say this, and I'm not a marketing guy, but I'm going to say this. If you're going to get into marketing at all, make sure you have a healthy budget and you follow through with that budget. Because I've seen people say, yeah, I'm going to put $2,500 aside for marketing. Okay, not a bad budget. And then they spend $500 like this isn't working.
Right.
They stop.
Or even better, they spend $500 on Google, $500 on Facebook, $500 on, right? And then they go, well, I spent $2,500 and none of it worked.
Yeah.
Well, you should have spent that $2,500
in one spot,
right? Like that would have had higher chances of success than just because your budget was so low, right? I don't know. It's just.
What did you say before? One third of your profits should be spent on marketing?
I said 10% of your gross revenue is
10% of your gross revenue. Okay.
Your gross revenue, not net.
Yeah, right, gross revenue.
Right. So I'll give you a perfect example. So one of the services we offer is SEO or search engine optimization, right? So we get someone that wants to start doing that, and they look at our package options, and we have 4 package options, for example. And they always look at our first one that's the cheapest and then go, I think I want to do this one. And we go, and this is something I have to figure out, is we always tell them that first package, that cheapest one, is what we would consider maintenance, not a start.
Right.
Like you should be starting at the other end of the spectrum, working your way down, not starting at the lowest, working your way up. And they always get confused by it. Right? And I'm like, especially with SEO, is because it can take time and it's time consuming in the beginning, that if you're just kind of like meddling in it, it's going to take a long time to get that money back.
Put a bunch of money up front, bunch of time and effort up front, and then slowly you can start working that down.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's hard for people to sometimes understand that, right? But getting that initial market penetration is often the most expensive part, and then maintaining it is proportionally less expensive, right? I'm not going to say it's less expensive, but we have a lot of clients that start in like our middle packages and never downgrade because they see the increased revenue and go, okay, let's do a little bit more. Let's just stay where we are. or let's add something else. Let's add Facebook advertising. Let's add something to it. But they never downgrade. We've had a handful of clients that go, listen, we just want to maintain these keywords because they're high generating, but we're not really looking to go after a bunch of other stuff. And a lot of times we've tested going after other keywords, and it can lead to a lot more like impressions and clicks, but it doesn't lead to more dollars and cents. So now it starts making sense to maybe look at it and go, maybe we should put that money elsewhere,
right?
Where we're seeing a higher return on that ad
makes
spend,
sense.
right? So yeah, with this, you're probably, I'm going to guess in this case, your tracking is set up wrong. You're not spending enough, and you're not getting data back to allow you to make adjustments.
And you're probably not using the right person to do it for you if you're doing, especially if you're doing it yourself. You can do it yourself.
You can. But
if you don't know what you're doing,
correct. You have
like
to.
anything else.
You have to know what you're setting up and what metrics you want to track. So.
All right, cool. Well, Mysterious Dish, good luck to you. I hope that helps give you some advice. All right. I think that's it for today.
I think it is.
It's a good show.
Remember.
What? Parking apps?
No. Go follow us. Like,
oh, yeah. Well, all those fun things. Sure.
Yeah, if you enjoy it. Like, we don't really, we're not pushy guys.
No.
We just want to network.
But we want to know that you like us.
Yeah,
I want to feel in my heart that somebody likes me.
Look, all I want at this point is just someone like give us some questions, some legitimate questions.
Yeah,
like give us an actual problem you're having. The more information you give us, the more of a detailed answer we'll be able to give you.
Absolutely, yeah. Leave us a comment,
and
or
I even have an attorney that'll write the disclaimer at the bottom that says this is for entertainment purposes only.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, well, give me his number.
He's right up the street.
Give me his number. So yeah, absolutely. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It'll be great to start seeing some comments from people with their questions about their business startup, and more importantly, I want to see where people are after a while too. So here's the ideal situation for me. We read someone's question online, right? We answer it. And then we get some follow-up from them.
Yeah, 3 months later, 6 months later.
That would be so great.
Yes.
Even if it's, hey, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But ideally, it's, that was great. It worked out for me. Here's what we did. Love it. Now pass that information on to somebody else.
Absolutely.
So
pay it forward.
All right, man. Have a great week.
You too.
See ya.